don't want to be dealt with. The teams that are really struggling to congeal, to be productive, to work, to adopt Agile. I mean, we've all had this exact problem. Let me frame up my shot a little better in a second here, but I want to introduce Lawrence Bonema from the Netherlands.
Hi there.
Freewheeling, somewhat independent contractor. I'm going to open up a soda water. Boom. And now we're ready to roll.
That's nice.
I got some hacks for you this week. It was the topic of the podcast, as a matter of fact, patience and persistence. What they mean to hacking a tough team. Every coach, every scrum master deals with this. In fact, I'd argue that this is the work, capital T, capital W.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence, what does a tough team look like to you? And tell me a little bit about some of the traditional approaches you've seen to trying to break through.
Yep.
Maybe even why they don't work and what could work better. Hello to everyone who's joined, by the way. Let's see who we got. We got Nappy by Nature is my favorite online name, potentially.
That is really awesome. Welcome, Nappy.
Lawrence and a couple other people. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to wave to y'all right now. Okay, sorry, Lawrence, I cut you off. Go right ahead, dude.
Yeah, the thing is, the first thing that makes me think is, what you mostly do when you have a tough team, what happens most often, at least the mistake I made in the beginning, and this already gives away what I think of it now, is to maybe get them in a room and really talk it out, and maybe even give them some training while you're at it, or let them get a certificate. And more often than not, they are being told not just that they need to get their act together, but also they're being explained, and may I say even mansplained, how that needs to be done, right? So look, apparently you don't get this teamwork thing that we're pushing, so we're going to push harder. That, in my experience, is what happens, and I know for a fact that I've been guilty of doing that. And unsurprisingly, that's not the best way to go about it, at least not in my opinion. I've almost done a full 180 on doing that. That said, you do need to strike up a conversation with them, right? Because otherwise, how are you ever gonna see the same thing in the same way? And that's fascinating. Maybe you have some thoughts too, Chris, on the thing that happens most often.
Imagine if I was devoid of thought for a week. Can you imagine just showing up? It's like, I got nothing. My friend Alessandria from Spain is here. I'm always so happy to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The topic today is hacking tough teams. What do you do when a team is tough? And Lawrence was saying that, sorry about the mic noise, but one of the traditional approaches is to learn them up. Let's get you into a class, and teacher becomes healer, and the team will magically be better. Well, listen, if logic and reason could solve agile team problems, then there would be one book, one manual, one way, and it would just be done with. The first thing you need to realize, every team is different, so the approach is probably always going to be different. So there would be a blend of training, I'm sure. What are some of the other approaches that I've seen that have not worked, though? Force, right? So pushing with carrots and sticks, trying to motivate with, if you want that promotion, or if you don't want to lose your job, then you're going to snap into place. So telling them the two things we've covered so far, trying to teach them through logic that Agile is the way, won't work. The next thing that won't work is carrots and sticks. We all know at this point in 2021 that that's not how we motivate people. The third approach is to take that really soft, consultative approach, which is tantamount to doing one of two things, which drives me nuts, which is buying more tools, or trying to implement more processes, or being empathetic and listening, which is basically like flipping scales entirely the wrong way, away from pushing with carrots and sticks. So we don't want to push with carrots and sticks. We know it doesn't work. So what do? We become empathetic facilitators with high emotional EQ, which is awesome. But at some point, none of any of those things on their own is enough.
Yeah, I think you need to act with empathy, but also you need to be aware that, and this, of course, is a flippant quote that I was just dying to use in a setting, and I think it's particularly useful here. Bees do not waste their time explaining to flies that honey is better than shit. Yeah. In other words, you do not go to people who really do not believe in the thing that you're peddling and selling and tell them, yeah, but my way's better. That just never works. They're happy where they are. that's their thing. You want to seduce them to this other new thing called honey. That's not what they do. And of course, I'm not saying everybody is a fly that doesn't agree with me, even though it would be a nice metaphor, at least in some situations. But the thing is, you can't convince people with more facts and more data and more material and better carrots and harder sticks. You really need to tap into their emotions. That's actually where the empathy comes in, but you need to act on it, not just tell them, not just feel for them, but do something with them, do something together. At least that's what I would say.
So here's, first of all, Alessandria says, that's correct. Every team is a world, by which I assume she means that every team's different. They're their own universe. They're their own unique ecosystem with different personalities and blends and mixtures that makes them resist formula. Now, the funny thing is that agilists love formula, right? So we have the manifesto that says we like people and we like people and interactions better than we like processes and tools. But in action, how often do we sit there and say there's a thing in Jira for that? And if there isn't a thing in Jira for that, we start shopping the Google Marketplace to see what tool might help solve this problem. And there isn't one. So tools and processes will not solve the problem for you. So if you're dealing with a team who's resistant, not congealing, not becoming productive, not being, and it's not malicious stuff, but it can be simple things like this. You can see they're not acting with courage. They're not dreaming big enough. We talked about painting with big brushes last week. They're just not doing that. They're doing ordinary, safe, certain things. They could be building BRDs. They could be seeking signatures. They could be doing all those old waterfall things that worked so well for so long because they're comfortable. But with agility, that's not what we're looking for. So when I say hacking tough teams, I'm talking about helping them break through. To my mind, empathy is not about eternally listening. At a certain point, you need to stop listening and instead be patient. Be patient means let's not talk, let's do, and let's fail. So if you listen to this week's episode, step 1, let them fail. Let them do things badly and encourage then. See, I always hear that the main root cause of agile failure is lack of management or executive support. That's not the main cause of agile failure. The main cause of agile failure is that we as practitioners fail to help the executive understand what actions, participations are essential to make the thing work. I've never met an executive who doesn't want Agile to work, but I've also never met an executive who knows exactly what Agile means, which is our failure. That's the root cause of failure. So you have to work with the executive team to help them understand what's required in order for agility to work. And what that means is you're going to explain to them, let's let the teams fail. And when they fail, simply speak to them and say, we could be getting bigger results. We could be painting bigger. This isn't as courageous as I know we can be. Those kinds of conversations are really helpful for teams. It's useful if you have a vision to march to, because then all you got to do, it's kind of like this. If you're trying to lose weight, how much do you want to lose? 20 pounds. Great. Did you lose 20? No. How many did you lose? 2. Did you hit your target? No. It's clear because the measurement target's clear and the measurement itself is clear. So if we have measurements like that, for example, I want to be the number 1 company in CRM app sales, whatever that might mean to you. Number 1 company, best performing, highest selling, most units shipped, don't care. If we see people doing things that are not courageous enough to get us to our goal on time, we need to be patient, which means let them fail. And then ask them, hey, we agreed to be measured on the following. I want to be the number 1 company in CRM app sales in the next 18 months. We're 7 months in. We're still number 28. Let's be real, guys. Could we be doing more? What's holding us back? Now, here's where you listen. Here's where the listening comes in. So that's step 1 is patience. So, Lawrence, I'd love to hear your experiences or your feedback on letting teams fail, aka being patient.
Actually, that really talks to what you just mentioned as to what we as coaches need to be doing with the executives, because just let them fail, support them in their failure, fail fast, and all those nice slogans do not really teach an executive how to deal with team failure. The most human thing to do is first to flip out and think this can't be so because now I'm not hitting my target. And that needs to be woven into the response. So a really good response would be, I'm really like angry right now, or whatever emotion is like primary, and then make sure that whatever act they then perform still keeps it safe to fail. So you don't have to be happy and do a whole song and dance about failure. That is actually counterproductive in my experience, because people will then think that they don't care. And that's actually the opposite of what you need to be showing. As an executive, in my experience, you need to show that you care and care deeply. And that includes getting angry when things don't go your way, but not angry with the team, angry with the result that you're getting. And you can be as angry as hell if you want to be, and if you need to be, to communicate how deeply you care. And then you ask, what do you need from me to get better at this? Or whatever question at that moment is top of mind, as long as it isn't derogatory to the team, as it doesn't push them down. But it's actually more forceful, more powerful in my experience, if you really do show that emotion. So it's not a bad thing to be angry in the face of failure, or to communicate that. And that's really the first thing I teach executives that I coach.
Awesome. I like that. Here's why. Because when you say not angry at the team, what are we really angry at? When you say not getting the results, the truth is we're angry at the processes that keep our people from doing their best. If you really, really dig deep, ask this question, try this. Go to the teams, especially the people who are on the hook. You know, most teams will be multidisciplinary. So there will be people in there from, let's say, the marketing group, from the product group, from the IT group, from the security group, et cetera, et cetera. Ask any one of the heads or the points of those teams, the scrum of scrum leaders, whatever you want to call them. If you could do anything to make our dream come true, number one, CRM app sales in 18 months. Number one. What would it be? What would you do? Here's where autonomy comes in. Here's where we don't want to motivate people with carrots and sticks. We want to motivate people with a fulfilling job where they get to bring their talents to bear to deliver exciting results. Simple as that. So we asked them, if you could do anything, what would it be? And they would say, well, if I had my druthers, I would do X, Y, and Z. Great. Why don't you do that? Because I think that would help us get to number one. And they start coming up with this stream of excuses. This person's not available. This process takes 45 days. Like I'm frequently stymied, if not amazed, by the number of times we say, hey, I'd love to have this next week. Oh, we can't do that. Why? Well, we have a vendor that takes 45 days to do their bid on it. And so what happened when you heard that it was going to take 45 days, knowing it meant we would miss our deadline? They just went, okay. Like you didn't even try to ask what could be different. How could we bring 45 down to 1? How could we bring 45 down to 2? How much money do you need to make it 4 days? Like we don't ask those questions because we just assume that the process is the process. So if you could wave a magic wand and do anything you wanted, what would it be? And when they tell you, say, great, let's do that. Now, tell me what stops you. Tell me about that 45-day runway that the vendor's putting in front of you. That's how you hack up blockers. That's what blockers means. So when you come into a room and you say no blockers, you had better not have any long-standing runways or inefficiencies or leaky processes, because that's exactly what we're supposed to be fixing.
That makes me think of Formula One, which is sort of my thing. I recently had a talk on it with Lila Nuya, best Scrum Master of the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Hope she's on here. Anyway, the thing that you can learn from those teams is they need to turn around in like 2 weeks max, because that's when the next race is. So whatever it is that they need from their suppliers, they need it within that time, right? Because they need to be able to bolt it to the car and whatever. So usually the turnaround time is 24 hours, maybe 72, never more. So I've taken that as a basic heuristic. That any given decision you need taken, it better get taken within 72 hours. Otherwise, you're taking too long. Literally any. And it's better to have a bad decision in 72 hours than to wait longer. And the 72 hours is like completely arbitrary. That's just inspired by the Formula One time frame. But you really can do that. I've experimented that with that in teams and with executives. and it's a completely arbitrary boundary. So the 48 days for your supplier is also probably a completely arbitrary boundary. If you just give them a call and say, could you do it in 1 week? The answer would probably be, yeah, it would be difficult, but, and then after the but is exactly what you need to be doing to make sure that it happens in a week.
Right. Right. The other thing is persistence. That's the second piece. So, two steps to hacking difficult teams. Don't try to influence them or make change with logic and reason. Don't try to influence or incite change with carrots and sticks. And don't try appeasement or pleasing or too much of a gentle kind of when you're ready touch. Push them into action and let that action fail. And be patient with the failure. Number two, be persistent. What that means to me is whatever it is that you do to ensure consistent progress, do it daily for a while and bring the people who are on the hook for the ultimate result to all of those sessions. If that's your stand up, great. If that's your demo, great. But continuous, I won't say pressure, continuous application of effort, energy, positive energy in a forward way is what creates forward momentum. I'll give you an example. If you're looking to build muscle, if you're looking to beach body up, you're not going to go to a trainer every 8 months. You want that trainer with you 3 times a week, pushing you, but also letting you know if you're doing the right things and letting you admire the results in the mirror the minute you take your foot off the gas. If fear, bad attitude, or bad habits are the source of your problem, meeting with your trainer once every 4 months, I'm not going to do it. Because what you need is that accountability. What you need is that constant inspiration and guidance. So if you have a great leader, whether that's you as a Scrum Master, good for you, whether that's you as an Agile coach, good for you, or if you need to bring the executive people who are on the hook for the vision, right, the people who are paying for the gig, great. Bring whoever you need to bring, but make great, positive, forward energy every day. And that can simply be asking the question, what are we going to do today to move ourselves closer to the goal of number one in the CRM app space marketplace in the next 18 months? What's the biggest thing that we can do today, the most important thing, and what keeps you from getting it done? Lawrence, thoughts on persistence?
Yeah, I think you should also persist in trying new things all the time. So in addition to just going forward and always asking, what can I do to get as close to the goal that I have as possible today, preferably as a team, so you become a high performance team while doing it. Also, accept the fact that if the reality that you're facing is sufficiently complex, and let's face it, if it's not, then you shouldn't be doing Agile to begin with. So if it's a complex environment that you're working in, then there's always more than one way to get it done, and there's even more than one way to get it done well, right? So find all those ways. So when way number one that you're invested in doesn't work, you can pivot to the other way, and you already know what that is. So it's never like a huge disappointment. It's just a fact that means you sidestep this a little and try something else without it being like a panicking moment, but really as oh, good. So we have these 10 ways to do this. We tried the first one. Let's try the others because the first one isn't working enough, or we're curious if number 3 actually would yield a better and faster result, or if it's more convenient for us or whatever. I find that a lot of people do not like pan out too much. They zoom in too much on just one thing that they think will solve the problem instead of always coming up for air and inspiration.
You're so right. I think that if we define what done well means, so number one in the app marketplace in the next 18 months, how will we know if we've done that right? Well, you pick your measures and you say, if we are number one according to a certain ranking, or if we get a certain review, or we get a certain revenue number, that's how we measure ourselves. But who says that we do that by copying every other CRM app maker in the space? Maybe we do that by redefining CRM. Maybe we do that by redefining app. Maybe we do that by niching down. Maybe we do that by chasing a brand new segment that didn't exist. Maybe we do that by simplifying. by creating an app that is not necessarily more functional, more complex, but is in fact simpler to reach people who hate CRM, who don't use CRM. Maybe we shouldn't be targeting existing buyers and trying to yank them away from HubSpot or whatever your Salesforce, whatever your CRM is. Maybe we should create something new for people who hate CRM. And maybe we can make them love it. Maybe that's how we become number one. So I like your idea of totally changing the map and saying there isn't one way to get where we're going. It's like your GPS. One bridge is closed. We'll find a way or make a way. We'll just go around it.
Exactly.
Nice. Any questions out there for guys? What's your experience in working with tough teams and breaking through? I'm talking about teams who are, despite having done all the right things as coaches and scrum masters, we've given them a nice Jira setup. Everyone's got an account and we've got the premium features in Jira and all that wonderful stuff. We've got our Asana going, whatever you have going. We've done all our rituals. We've got everyone PSM or CSM certified. And yet, when the team comes together, it doesn't work. We don't produce. We don't gel. We're not working as a team. We're not agile. We're not doing agile things. To me, agile things means small, incremental movements over time. And that's a big consideration when we say persistence, by the way. Persistence
I think it,
does not... Go ahead.
I think it requires a third step there, which is really close to persistence, and that is focus. If you do not also focus on that fact, right? So we need to find smaller ways to get better every time, because we're always focusing on the big thing, the big goal. But to ever get there, you need to be patient, you need to be persistent, and I think you also need to be focused. Focused on the thing, not get distracted. So actually not picking up your phone right now when it pings and says that we're live talking about hacking tough teams. If you're actually hacking a tough team, then, well, interestingly, you should stay focused on that for a bit.
So that brings up an interesting question. A lot of times in modern Agile, I find teams don't gel, don't produce because they're on 9 projects. Because we don't do committed, dedicated teams. It happens all the time. Because what do we do when we bring an Agile team together? It's like, well, I need the expert. I need the best of the best. Well, who's that? That's the director of, or the VP of, or the et cetera, et cetera. Well, guess what? They're busy. They're not working on one product at a time. They're not working on one project at a time. They're not on one initiative at a time. So focus can be really, really hard to get. So it's a worthwhile addition to our patience through failure and persistent application of positive forward momentum. Focus matters. It's a great addition. Guys, any questions, any comments, anything out there in Instagram land, anything that you would add to this conversation to make it richer for you?
I see that Alessa is happy, or at least she's applauding.
She's clapping her hands. You know why?
Thank
because
you.
She lives in Spain. And if you follow her on Instagram, everyone looks happy in all of her pictures. Nobody's wearing winter coats like we're wearing here in Canada. And she's a lot of fun. So I hope she's having a great day. What about the rest of you guys? Anyone else contribute something? If not, we'll wrap up. I hope this has been helpful for you. Check out Lawrence's work. You see his, follow him on Instagram if you're not already. And check out the Badass Agile podcast if you haven't already or lately. This week's episode is all about patience and persistence. This is how we hack difficult teams. Lawrence, great to see you.
Yeah, as always.
Thanks for your time. We'll see you again next Wednesday.
See you next Wednesday.